Well, the Chicago Bears continue to add top 30 visits. Ryan Poles also shows up at Miami's Pro Day, and he may be signaling and showing his hands on exactly what he plans to do in the NFL draft. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about another article that calls Cole Kmet a cut candidate. Can we stop the cap? And we're going to look at how the Chicago Bears plan on improving and adding speed to this defense and what that dynamic brings. We'll talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And the Chicago Bears showed up to Miami's Pro Day, the Hurricanes Pro Day yesterday, and a number of the prospects there that kind of make sense for the Chicago Bears, mainly being Ruben Bain Jr. and Akeem Messidor. Now, we've talked a little bit about these players before, especially when you look at the Chicago Bears, of course, trying to improve their pass rush dramatically this offseason and trying to find out players that can help do that, right? Like the Bears did not make that big splash move in free agency that a lot of Bears fans wanted to see. And, you know, while I've been telling you guys, hey, calm down, the Bears can still impact and change their pass rush this year. This is how they're going to do it, is with players like this. When you look at Ruben Bain Jr., 6'3", 275 pounds, this guy had 9.5 sacks last year, one fumble force, one interception as well. Also, when you look at his collegiate career, 3 years in Miami, 20.5 sacks in his collegiate career as well. There's just no doubt about it. Ruben Bain is somebody we have not talked a lot about. We've talked about Messidor, we haven't talked a lot about Ruben Bain Jr., but he is a guy that absolutely can come in and help that team quite a bit, actually, when you look at it. When you look at Bain and Messidor, right? These are the top guys in Miami last year, and they had Chicago only had 35 sacks last year, with 10 of them coming from Montez Sweat. When you look at Messidor and Bain, they combined for 22 of the Miami Hurricanes' 50 sacks last season, with Messidor having 12.5 by himself, right? Now, reportedly, Ruben Bain had a great pro day as well, where he showed off his sacks as well. His speed as well, which is what the Chicago Bears are trying to add to this team. More on that here in a second, right? And so that's a solid target for the Chicago Bears, but that's not it as well. CJ Daniel is also another guy that could be there also for the Chicago Bears, but at 6'2", it's a wide receiver as well, who's going to be a day 2 or day 3 pick at 557 yards and 7 touchdowns last year for the Miami Hurricanes. And you can figure out how he can fit with Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. So, you know, you look at so far we've seen from the pro days that Ryan Poles has gone to, he's gone to pro days of teams that have multiple players that make sense for the Chicago Bears to go out there and try to draft. And that's not something that I'm mad at all. That makes sense for the Chicago Bears in trying to do that. Poles is being very intentional about who he's targeting in this draft and how he's maneuvering through these top 30 visits and through these pro days. He's looking at specific targets. Now, so far from what we can gather from the combination of top 30 visits and pro days is that safety, defensive line, surprisingly, running back and wide receiver seem to be the positions that the Bears are targeting most. So we look at 5 positions for the center. We already know, but I think we know who that center prospect's going to be, right? Like, so center, defensive line, safety, wide receiver, and running back. That seems to be the 5 positions that the Chicago Bears are targeting the most. Now, defensive line is defensive tackle and edge, right? So I guess you can say 6 positions, but that's what it seems like the Bears are targeting right now in the NFL draft. And that really makes sense, right? When you look at where the Bears were left after free agency, all that makes sense, right? We still have to improve the defensive line some. Even if they expect Austin Booker to make a leap, you still need to add more depth there on the edge. We can use more interior, even though they signed some veterans. Those guys aren't on guaranteed contracts. They don't have to make the final 53. So you're looking at more, help on the interior of the defensive line. Safety, we have a starting safety spot left open. The linebacker, it seems like the Bears may not be looking at linebacker in the way that I expected. We look at the Jack Sanborn acquisition, bringing back DeMarco Jackson, Devin Bush, TJ Edwards is still on the roster, of course, as well. Noah Sewell's still on the roster for whatever that's worth. You also have guys like Ruben Hippolyte who are going to try to, show that they deserve a spot in the rotation for the Bears. So the Bears may not be addressing linebacker like I initially thought coming into this. I didn't expect them to re-sign Jack Sanborn, right? So those are things that to look at for the Bears, but it seems like those 5 positions are going to be key. And then, of course, cornerback is still another one that they can address, at some point in this draft as well, depending on where the talent's going to be. But I just think that's if you're looking at the tea leaves, that's what you're seeing for Ryan Poles. So in a way, he's kind of showing his hand. Now, where he decides to prioritize and which round he decides to prioritize each of those positions, that's still what's really left up in air. And like I told you guys with my mock draft, I would not be surprised at all if the Chicago Bears are not unable, but if they do not go after a defensive edge or tackle in the first round. So, we'll see what happens there. But Ryan Poles, they're going through this methodically. And I think that's the right approach for this, is find the right talent to add to this team. That we'll get more on the style of defense, but we're starting to see a style of defense that this Bears team is going to want to run next year. And I think that it makes a lot of sense as far as doubling down on speed. But we'll end the episode talking about how the Bears are attacking speed and trying to add speed to this defense. But the draft is coming up next. And I know that free agency doesn't officially end to July, as somebody pointed out, but for all intents and purposes, the Bears are basically done in free agency. Not to say that some little signings can't happen. You're going to see some camp invites and things like that. But I think when you're looking at the next big thing for the Bears, even though it's still like a month away, is going to be the NFL draft for the Bears. And then based off how that draft goes, that's where we can see some other things happen for this team at, coming out of that draft. So overall, solid. I think I love the way that Ryan Poles is moving with it. I love the targets that it looks like we're going after. Sam Hecht, as it would be a great center prospect going forward into the future for the Bears. So, I think that's really good. But, there are also some veterans. And Cameron Johnson, a 15-year vet, has been talked about as somebody that the Bears could prioritize. And I don't know if I agree with this or like it. Not to say he hasn't been productive over his career. I just think at this point, is that really where the Bears want to go? I think we're kind of, focused on targeting young players in this draft rather than going after a veteran that's also looking to get paid. But, as you guys know here at Chicago Bears Central, we talk about everything. And, this is something that continues to pop up. This is a guy that's played under Dennis Allen before. And this isn't the first time that the Chicago Bears have been mentioned as probably the best target for Cameron Jordan, who says this, right? Cameron Jordan, on an appearance on the Set podcast, said this: "You see guys my age re-sign with the team because that's the only team they've ever been with." And you're like, hell yeah, we love that. But that's but that's to his situation. They may not be, that might not be my situation. As football players, we can only control what we can control. As much as I like to be, hell yeah, I want them to love me as much as I love them, sometimes the business side of that makes you feel emotional. You got to be able to take your emotions out of it. Of course, I love to be in New Orleans. At the same time, if it doesn't make sense, we got to find our own path. I know what I want to do, what I want to accomplish. If that doesn't line up, that's fine as well. Now, this comes after, there's an article from Fansided that called Cameron Jordan the Bears Cameron Jordan's ideal landing spot. Now, this is a guy that's 6'4", 287 pounds, but he's 36 years old. But for what it's worth, as a defensive end last year, he still had 10.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, right? And the production is still there. Now, this is a guy that would have played under Dennis Allen before, so you look at that. He had some of his best seasons under Dennis Allen as well. Has 132 sacks over the course of his 15-year NFL career. And so some people are saying that this could end up being the best. The Chicago Bears could be the best landing spot for him. And this comes from Zachary Rotman of Fansided, who says this: "Even at 36 years of age, Cameron Jordan remains incredibly productive. He recorded double-digit sacks for the first time since 2021, tacked on 15 QB hits, ranked 24th amongst 115 edge rushers with a 76 PFF grade. He was particularly stout against the run, ranking 4th among the same 115 defensive end. Jordan understandably wants to get paid like an elite player he remains, but as of now, the New Orleans Saints have not met whatever asking price he has. Open the door for him to depart for a team like the Chicago Bears, who could really use him. The Bears were the bottom half of the league with 35 sacks in the regular season, and despite their best efforts, failed to acquire Max Crosby." There you go with national media. I hate when people write about the Bears and don't really understand what the Bears were doing. I'm not saying Jordan is as good of a player as Crosby is, but I think he can wreak havoc and would be reunited with Dennis Allen, only making this fit even more perfect. So the Bears don't have a lot of cap space. And that's the thing ultimately in this. If Cameron Jordan is looking to get paid like an elite edge, there's no way in hell. Right? Now, with the Bears going after, target-wise, an edge in this draft, I just don't see the fit. It'd be different if the Bears were going on Austin Booker, being the starter And then they were saying, well, let's get a veteran in here who can raise the floor, right? And Cameron Jordan can do that in case Austin Booker doesn't live up to expectations. But I don't even think Cameron Jordan would even take a role like that. It seems like he not only wants to get paid, but he's going to want to go to a situation where he's guaranteed to start. So, and he deserves to start. Based off what he did last season, he still deserves to start, and I can understand that. If I put up a 10.5 sack season as well, you better goddamn well believe I'm not going to look at that and say, yeah, let me take a step back after, being tied for 13th in overall sacks in this league, right? So that's what you're looking at for. But listen, if he's willing, if he strikes out in New Orleans and it comes to the realization, hey, the money that I want's not out there, and he comes to a team with the defensive coordinator that he's played under before in Dennis Allen, great, but the Bears just don't have the money right now. If he's looking to get paid, the key part in that quote is that he's looking to get paid like an elite edge rusher. We don't have the money to pay anybody like an elite edge rusher. Now, we can create some more, and I've talked about how the Bears can easily create by restructuring some contracts. They can create another $35, $38 million in cap space, but I just don't know if you're going to want to do that to pay a 36-year-old defensive end elite level money with where you are as a Chicago Bear. And again, maybe he comes down off that elite asking price. Maybe that's just the rumor. All those things are there. We're not going to take it as 100% truth, but Cameron Jordan, fine talent. I wouldn't mind him on this team, but that would come at a particular price for the Chicago Bears. And I don't think the Bears, unless they completely strike out in the draft on all of their edge targets, I just don't see a world in which they sign a veteran like Cameron Jordan to bring into this team. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. You hear that Cameron Jordan and the Saints could be parting ways. He is very familiar with Dennis Allen. We've seen Dennis Allen go after and target players before that played under him and had some really good seasons under him. So we know that Dennis Allen would know how to scheme him, how he fits in the scheme, all that type of stuff. Adding another 10.5 sacks on the opposite side of Montez Sweat would be great as well, right? I want to be clear in that. But I just think that you have to live in reality. And the fact of it is that the Bears don't have a lot of money. And do you want to gamble on a 36-year-old, even though they've had a very productive season? Do you want to gamble? Some of y'all said Max Crosby was too old. Some of y'all said Trey Hendrickson was too old. Cameron Jordan is older than both those guys. So, I don't see it happening personally. Now, if I'm wrong with that, I'm wrong with that. If the Bears end up going after it and being aggressive and they want to bring in Cameron Jordan, cool, great. If Dennis Allen signs off on it, I believe in it. I just don't know if that's the route that the Bears have shown themselves, and I don't know if that's the best route for the Chicago Bears considering where they are right now as a team. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. But I said we were going to talk a little bit about this team and what they're doing, right? And that is adding speed to this defense, right? When you look at next-gen stats for the Chicago Bears, which kind of stands out, right? Next-gen stats, they track a team's average time to pressure a quarterback and pass rush get off, right? Those are really good when you look at, getting to the quarterback, putting pressure on the quarterback. The Bears were the worst team in football in both those categories. Our average time to rush the quarterback was 2.9 seconds, which was 0.1 slower than the Cincinnati Bengals, and that as well, right? They also tied the Chicago Bears with 35 sacks. The Bears also finished at a 0.93 second get off, which was the second 0.1 seconds lower than the Baltimore Ravens, right? So the fact of the matter is that the Bears weren't very fast in attacking the quarterback. And, that's something that you don't need next-gen stats for that. If you watch these games, you knew that the Chicago Bears were very slow. We're almost there so much. It's almost there, right? And so then when you look at the Chicago Bears and how they've tried to add speed, right? Let's look at the 40-yard dash times. Let's look at the 10-yard split times of the players that we've added. Neville Gallimore has 1.7 seconds. Kentavious Sweet has 1.66. James Lentz has 1.7, right? Those are all relatively close to each other. You look at Devin Bush as well, who's bringing speed to the linebacker position. Kobe Bryant, who's bringing speed to the safety, right? The Chicago Bears are looking at one of their needs as far as getting to the quarterback, and they've addressed them in a kind of a out-of-the-box way. Now, I know many people don't like advanced analytics and advanced stats, and I get that because nothing overtakes for the eye test. To me, I love advanced analytics and stats, but that's paired with what you see on the football field. You have to merge the two together. You have to have the numbers, because I think sometimes you can confuse, and in football, you can confuse activity with actually progression and accomplishment, right? And so I like to merge the two, but you still need to watch it to see it. And so regardless of me throwing out next-gen stats at you, one thing that's true, you saw it. The Bears had a problem getting to the quarterback. We were almost there way too often and way too much, right? And so those struggles are loud. And it seems that the Bears are looking at intentionally adding speed to this team. So even when you look at draft prospects, keep in mind that 40-yard dash time. Keep in mind that get off time. Those are things that the Bears are going to really be looking at, I think, to add a dynamic to this team that we were clearly missing. And that may be where the Bears replace the takeaways that they had last year with actual functional kind of better defense. And that's been the thing here. And, a lot of people have made a lot about the Bears losing the guys that had the most takeaways on the team, right? And takeaways were an identity by this team, but not by design. They were identity from the team trying to find a way to survive, right? When you talk about adding speed, when you talk about adding an ability to get to the quarterback faster, these are all things that just make more sense when you're trying to add a functional defense to this team and trying to add, just more reality in how you attack the quarterback, more reality in how you perform day in and day out. That's what the Bears are doing. They're not trying to live just in the sense of, we're getting all these takeaways. That was an identity that was not sustainable. You know what is sustainable when you see playoff teams and what's replicable is being able to put pressure on the quarterback, being able to stop the run, right? These are two of the most important areas for the Chicago Bears to address this year. If they go from being one of the best takeaway team in the league to bottom half of the league in takeaways, but they raise up to one of the top half and getting to the quarterback, that is a more sustainable and a more meaningful stat and production for the Chicago Bears. And that's what they need to focus on in this one, is adding the functionality to their defense, adding things that may not always show up on the stat sheet, but you see when you look at this team. That's the thing that I want to see, a team that you can tell is putting pressure on the team. I want to see a defense that you can tell is forcing another offense to find ways to adjust. I want to see a team that's going out there and performing in a way where you see, hey, that offense is pressed. They don't want to go to that side of the field. They don't want to go across that middle because they're getting cracked. Like, that's the type of thing that I want to see from this team next year. I want to see more actual identity and not as much gimmick. And speed is something that can help in adding that. Now, you still need skill. You can't just be fast, because fast, if you can't tackle, which is one of the things we talked about with Kobe Bryant and his missed tackle rate, being pretty high last season. So you want to see how that's going to go too. We have to be able to also tackle, right? And that's something that I think the Bears are going to be fine at this season. I know there have been a lot more Bears fans that have shown concern over the secondary recently. And while I initially look at that and I took that and said to myself, like, the secondary is going to be fine. We came into the season last year expecting the secondary to be one of the strongest spots for the Chicago Bears. Injuries took that away. I can understand why that shook that a little bit. But I think if you have a fully healthy Kyler Gordon, a fully healthy Jaquan Brisker, a fully healthy Terrell Smith, a Zay Frazier that's a rookie that's coming into this one as well. We also talk about, Lewis and what he's adding to this team. Like, those are things that are going to help this team also. Like, I think the secondary overall, the cornerback room is going to be fine. We need to find that other starting safety. But if we do those things, I think we'll be in a pretty damn good position. So we just got to see how that's going to come into reality for the Bears, and we'll see if they can take care of that business. With that said, I said we were going to talk about an article which called for Cole Kmet, also another cut candidate. And I hate this shit. I hate having to talk about this, but this one came out from Bleacher Report that said this. If the Bears can't work out a restructure or find a trade partner for Kmet, they can save $9 million by releasing him after June 1st. If Chicago can add some depth behind Loveland over the draft weekend, releasing Kmet would make a good amount of financial sense. If Kmet does become available, adding him should be a priority for virtually any team in the need of pass-catching tight end. The Notre Dame product has caught 288 passes for 2,939 yards and 21 touchdowns in 6 seasons and won't turn 28 until next offseason. Here's the thing. All these outlets that want to continue to list Cole Kmet as a cut candidate, why would you, even if the Bears did decide, why would you not trade him? That's a player that's going to get trade interest around it. Like, we gotta stop with this shit. Cole Kmet is not getting cut. I feel really solid in saying that. Yes, he only had 30 receptions for 347 yards and 2 touchdowns last year, but we know the importance for the 2 tight end set under Ben Johnson. We know the importance of that. How Cole Kmet has talked about the importance of that and why it hasn't made him worry about his job at all, right? He has 2 years remaining on a $50 million extension that he had. If the Bears do decide to move on from Cole Kmet, it's not going to be via cut. They'll trade him because they can actually get something back for him because, as that article said, there are teams that are going to be in need for a player of Cole Kmet's skill set. But again, I don't think the Bears are at that place. Maybe they're at that place next season. I don't think they're at that place right now. They are looking to add other things to this team, not take away from one of the things that benefited. You know why? Part of the reason why Colston Loveland was able to have the season that he had, because Cole Kmet was on the opposite side of that, doing wonders in the blocking game, right? So, and this is not to say that Cole Kmet is untouchable or anything like that. I don't think that. I don't believe that. I just think with where we are right now, again, operating from a place of a plethora of talent, you already got rid of DJ Moore and didn't get much back for him because you needed to create the space. I don't see that happening. Well, you got a second-round pick, which is really good. I take that back. But, I just don't see the Bears also moving on from Cole Kmet in where they are right now. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's one of those things that are going to be sensationalized by writers that are looking for clicks, and that's just the reality of it. So, that's my part. That's my standpoint of it. Yes, the Bears are in a cap crunch, but we've also already talked about how restructuring or extending some of these guys makes more sense, and you can create substantial cap space that way. And that's just my standpoint on it. But you guys can let me know how you feel on that one yourself down below. But with that said, the Bears have some big decisions to make, y'all. And time is, still got plenty of time. I won't say it's necessarily running out, but we're getting up into that point. Let me ask you this. Are you keeping Cole Kmet? Are you making a tough business move in regards because of the cap space? I want to hear from you guys on that one down below. Otherwise, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearcentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.